So it turns out that the equivalent to being really popular in high school because you have gum in your bag that everyone just wants to be your friend is being an adult woman with a ring size on your bag. So today we are chatting about how I chose my engagement ring and a few little quirky things that happened along the way. So I started off looking online at rings at things that I thought I wanted, which was a rose gold band and a solitaire diamond, which just means one biggish diamond in the middle. So this is what my Pinterest board looked like. So I decided to create a Google Doc of rings that I liked so that I could send that to Will so that when he was going to propose, which I knew was going to be coming up, he would choose something along the lines of what I had in mind. However, when it came to a random chat in the car, you know, like one of those driveway chats where you've clearly just arrived home from somewhere but you don't leave the car and you just sit and chat. So we were talking about my ring and how much it would cost. And Will said something about engagement rings costing 200 to 300 quid. And I was like, are you joking? And he was like, what, I know you're just trying to do that thing where you just pretend that I've said something stupid but actually you're just mucking around. And I was like, no, are you joking? Listen, potentially you could get a ring for £200 to £300, but like if you're gonna go to a shop and buy a standard ring, it's unlikely. You'd probably be looking at something second-hand or more simple quality. So I just said, Will, please do not look at the Google Doc I sent you. So we decided to go shopping together to find a ring, which ended up being a really good idea because then I could pick something I was happy with, but sorry, my nose has just gone really red because I just had to itch it real bad and I've just seen, it was really itchy, the colour it turned. Anyway, oh gosh. So me and Will decided to go shopping together, which was a great idea because then we could say that we were both happy with the price, both happy with the style of it, but obviously, ultimately, he was most happy with the price and I was most happy with how it looked. So we started off looking at a more independent, not chain, that's the same thing, shop, which was closed, and I was glad because I didn't really like anything in the windows. I would not have wanted to go in there. Whereas Will's a bit more like appreciative of more independent, unique things, so I know that he would have wanted to go in. So I was happy with that. So we went all the way around our first high street shop, and bless Will, he was like, oh, what about this ring? Because this ring is a square shape and you said you like that. And I was like, no, I said I don't like square rings. And then the next one we come across, he was like, oh, but what about this detail? Because you showed me a ring that looked like this. And I was like, no, I showed you that other ring because of that one specific thing. I didn't like the rest of it. And we just weren't on the same page. So we went all around the shop and lo and behold, no rose gold. And the only one interesting ring that we passed was one that I said, that's a weird ring, why is it a weird star? And we moved on. Got to the end of the shop and I was like, there's just nothing that even caught my eye apart from that weird one. So we moved back round to the weird one and we were just chatting about rose gold, and then Will decided to ask the cashier people, do you have any rose gold rings? And I was like panicking in the corner like, oh gosh, like we're just browsing, I'm not ready to speak to someone about this, like the social pressure, and like I'm not very good at saying no, I'll just get dragged into things that I'm like not on board with. So I was a bit like, well. Anyway, the people were really lovely, but they did say the only rose gold ones we've got are in our Disney collection, and I was like, not for today. So we were talking about this weird star one, which they then pulled out, and spoiler alert, I was like, oh, hang on, it's not like a star, it's like a flower. And then they just got me to try it on. It just so happened to be in my size, and something chemical happened. I don't know what it was, but I was just finding myself to be attached to this ring. Something was happening and I was like, oh, it's quite feminine. Oh, that's like really unique. I don't know what's happening here. Ugh. And at that point I realised, in this process, everyone is staring at my hand on a table, and this feels a little bit awkward. There's a lot of pressure on me, and also, my word, are my fingers hairy? Anyway, so we were like thank you very much, take a photo of that, and now we're gonna go try somewhere else. And they were like, yeah, fair enough. So off went to the next one, and in the next one I was like, right, I need to think carefully about this, because I wanted something that was rose gold, because I don't want something like too yellow or too silver, so maybe there's just like more of an in-between metal that's just not rose gold. And also I thought, let's look at one big solitaire diamond, because that is kind of what I had in mind. So I went to the next shop and found that very thing. So we got the lady to bring it out for us, and immediately this lady brought it out and said, now this is a gorgeous ring. And I saw that ring on the counter and I was like, woman, I have no trust in you, because this is a horrible ring. And I know I've just chosen it to bring out and look at it, but I know this ain't it, and you told me it's gorgeous and you're wrong. So I then put it on, and that just confirmed that this ring may be lovely for someone else, and in my mind it's still like a really nice style that I thought that I would like, but on my hand looked chubby. And I know the photo I took is not a great angle, and I will give you a special zoom in on the finger hair, because the finger hair is real, and I had to apologise to the lady and say, oh my gosh, I should have shaved my fingers, because if I don't call this out, it's just an elephant in the room, and I feel like that's worse. And she said, oh, I shaved mine as well. And I was like, great. So we were only there for like 5 minutes, so it's a bit awkward. So I just did the whole, oh, thank you, let's take a photo of that, I'm going to go away and think about it, thank you for all your help, blah blah blah. Knew that I was not going back in there to get that ring. Also with this ring, it was not in my size, and she had said it would take 8 weeks to get in, and Will and I wanted to get engaged quicker than that. And I'm not saying that we would have settled for a ring that wasn't good for the sake of it being done quicker, but it was a bit of a downside. So Will and I went for a pretzel break, and I called my mum and I said, listen, there are these 2 rings, but I don't know whether to go for one that is more interesting and just like out there a bit and it just made me feel good, but I'm worried it's a bit childish, or something that I don't have that connection to, but I feel like in 30 years time, when I'm like mid-50s, I'm gonna be like, oh, this was a sensible choice, this is timeless and suitable, and I didn't want some weird baby flower on my finger. Like, I'm a mature woman now. And as soon as I sent her the one of the flower, which she will not refer to as a flower, she's like, it's a cluster, and I'm like, it's a flower. She said, oh, I don't think that's childish at all. And then it was like, right, I can be safe now, I'm allowed to love this ring. And Will and I had dinner plans, so we went back to his house, had a roast dinner, went straight out to the city again and picked up the first ring, and just like that, took it home. Easy, bish bash bosh. I mean, we paid for it, but we took it home. And the second time we went to get this flower ring, I did try it on with some other rings there as well, and my finger swelled up. He said, oh, that's fine, that happens when you try a lot on and whatever, it's hot in here. And I was like, okay. But I knew it was my size because I'd slept with the ring sizer on my finger overnight, because your fingers swell at night time, so I had done the whole proper tests with it, so I knew that it was the right one. I don't know why. I guess I should have thought about that with the ring sizer, that I was obviously putting the ring sizer like right at the base of my finger where my engagement ring would be, but actually when you've got a wedding band on, the ring is going to sit slightly higher on like the more fatty bit. Why am I shaking? So maybe, I don't know, I'm just going to try and go for a really, really thin wedding band so I don't have this issue where it doesn't fit nice and comfortable anymore. I know that it wasn't the most traditional way to go about getting an engagement ring, and I feel like most people, or what I see like advertised on social media, is that most people get their fiancé to choose the ring for them, and of course they just always love it, and I'm like, that's very risky. And it's very easy to write into a film script that obviously the girlfriend, fiancé to be, loves the ring, but that's very risky, because I thought that I wanted a certain thing, and actually now I'm like, no, this was it, this was the one. I don't want rose gold anymore. I've moved on. But I'm really glad I know what the ring looked like, because when he proposed, it was December and we were outside and it was 6 p.m. so it was dark. So he opened up this ring box, and obviously I said yes, but if I didn't know what the ring looked like, I would have had no idea, because it was so dark. I'm like, I can't see it. So that was actually really beneficial for us, and it was fun going together. And bless Phil, he looked around the whole shop, and then he was like, oh yeah, I see what you mean about the prices now, they're really expensive. And he's like messaging his friends like, did you realise how much these things cost? So yeah, it was important that we were both happy, and we were, and it worked out great. So there you go.